Yeah, and so they're like,
And there's
well,
like two right. Let's go. Do
yep.
it.
welcome back to Season 5 of Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today in the comic book studios are my co-hosts, Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
And Mr. Connor Casey.
Whoosh.
And shout out to our other co-host, Janelle Wheeler, who's taken a very well-deserved break and vacation, which in my mind didn't exist. I thought you were supposed to be here. So, Janelle, enjoy vacation and get back to work next week. But for now, what we will be talking about this week and this show, we are the only show that does it all for geek culture, meaning we go to pretty much all quadrants. We do Marvel, DC, movies, TV, Star Wars, Star Trek, Power Rangers, anime, wrestling, gaming, and we got a whole smorgasbord spread for you today of that. But if you are not subscribed to Comic Book Nation, which we hope you will be, please do go subscribe to the Comic Book Nation YouTube page, Comic Book, all one word, -Nation YouTube page, and to our Comic Book Nation Twitter account, because we are dropping more and more episodes. Now that we have so much content, again, in Hollywood, for now at least, we have more than we can fit in one show, so we have bonus episodes, and this week, in the last 2 weeks, we have a whole spoiler breakdown discussion of the Flash movie. We want you guys to check that out and tell us what you thought. And we have another one this week discussing, can DC still build a successful franchise universe? Connor, Casey, and me battle it out in that debate. No holds barred style, as our wrestling channel head would probably bring to the table. So be sure to download that bonus episode as well. Now, as for today's show, here's what we got on the slate. First, we have to talk about The Flash's box office. Connor's here, and he's going to enjoy doing that. And new revelations have come out in the week since the movie's release, including we got robbed of a Batman Beyond movie, but may still get a Blue Beetle trilogy. Matt's happy about that. Kevin Smith has some predictions about Ben Affleck's Batman future. We also just have breaking news, as always, before we come in with a whole plan for this show. There was a scathing expose that just dropped about what is happening at Sony Animation and with the Spider-Verse animated movies that we've got to dig into and talk about. Plus, Marvel Secret Invasion premiered on Disney Plus this week, so we're going to review the premiere episode, as well as the new Netflix series Skull Island, based on the popular MonsterVerse movies. And Matt and Connor have some wrestling to talk, because it is AEW Forbidden Door time. So they're going to break down the predictions for AEW Forbidden Door. And we need a lot of time to talk comics this week, because big things happening. DC has introduced...
Things and little things stopping.
We do not have the money. We will get sued.
That song is 15 years old. I hope you know that.
Man, that's about right for my references.
DC has introduced a whole new next-gen Trinity with a character named Trinity. And Marvel is bringing back a universe some of us never wanted to see again. So we're going to talk about all of that. That's Comic Book Nation's rundown for this show. Let's jump back up to the top. Connor Casey, please take it away. Take your victory lap about The Flash and what's happening at the box office.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Connor Casey Victory Lap Corner, in which we talk about how I was right about Flash. Anyway, I'm checking out Box Office Mojo right now. As it stands, 144 million worldwide, heading into its second weekend, 69.5 million US, and a little bit more domestically. And for those keeping score, on Wednesday, it was already losing at the box office to Spider-Verse and Elemental. So not looking great heading into this second week. But a lot has kind of been, there's been a lot of fallout as a result of what happened after the disappointment critically and commercially. The first thing is that George Clooney, even though there was some speculation on this very panel as to whether or not he might still be the Batman, no, it was just a joke. So calm down. Second, there was potentially going to be a Batman Beyond movie, had this done well. One of what I swear is half a dozen alleged Michael Keaton Batman projects. Like, I'm pretty sure he's already been written out of Aquaman 2. God knows what else they were going to try and have him do. But they were going to spin it as he's old Batman. We're going to cast a Terry McGinnis and go from there. This is just, to me, this is just more proof that this was a castle built on sand. And all these, chalk this up to just like the Cyborg movie we were supposed to get, and the third Wonder Woman movie we were supposed to get, and God knows what, and the Joker and Harley Quinn movie we were supposed to get.
The Nightwing movie?
I've lost count as to how many projects have been allegedly planned, and then one movie does bad and they go, oh, I guess you guys don't get this one. And then, on top of all that, Matt, this interests you. We might be getting a trilogy of Blue Beetle movies.
Yeah!
Allegedly. The director is saying so. And I look at that comment and I get the Sure-Jan gif. Like, this is, it's like, it's definitely in the DCU until it bombs, and then they're never going to talk about it again. It's definitely getting a trilogy unless this one doesn't do well, and then we never see this character again.
Yeah.
So, all this news that's come out this week, it's just classic Warner Brothers with their DC properties. It's, hey, we'll try and tentatively plan a bunch of stuff, but if the movie that's out in theaters people don't like or people don't see, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that a lot. The trilogy thing, even if you read the comment, it was very like aspirational as opposed to that's locked in. It was very like, we'd love to do a trilogy, and that's like, yeah, I would. That's like when you ask someone if they want to be in a giant movie, and the answer is gonna be 99% of the time, yeah, duh, I want to do that. So I understand. I don't take like the trilogy thing itself as like, oh yes, they're making 3 movies right now. But I agree with you. I do think for me, there's still a very hard line between like what this was, because we even talked about it beforehand. This was supposed to be, in some people's eyes, a bridge, in other people's eyes, just a closing period, in other people's eyes, an opening to a whole new world.
It was kind of neither.
It was kind of none of that, and it muddied the water. But I do very much still draw a line between like what Gunn and Safran's stuff is and what this is. This is still very much, you're right, it's very much built on a bunch of, hey, can we get this person back? Hey, let's connect to this. This movie has been in development, it feels like, for half my life. That's what happens when you do things sometimes. Every so often they work out. Most often it's Duke Nukem Forever. It's like not worth the wait. Right? So like but I get that. I understand all of that. I am very happy that Blue Beetle, because of the timing of everything, is being kind of embraced by the new and go, hey, let's give it a shot, as opposed to just being left out there to sit on its own. We'll see what the box office is, because if it doesn't do well,
then none of this
then it won't, and then they'll just go, hey, that was kind of, we're not really doing that, and we'll start with what our tentpole was for the next, that grand arcing plan.
Kofi, let me ask you this, because it feels like everybody at Warner Brothers, every actor, director, they're playing a game where they go, oh, this still counts for DCU until it doesn't. Would they have benefited from just not bringing up the James Gunn lineup until after Aquaman 2?
I've been wondering that a whole lot. Like, in the last few months, I've written some articles and even post-Flash about this, and we have a whole article on comicbook.com that goes with our podcast episode, so you can read kind of my further thoughts if you care. Shout out to Manhunter. He's always my top hater, and I love my haters. Celebrate my haters. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just like I've said multiple times, I've been doing this for 16 years. 14 of those have been helping to promote a DC movie universe that's supposed to happen, that never seems to work out, or goes through the most absurd moments of my life of press, like hearing Zack Snyder's out of Justice League. I was getting up to leave the office that day. It was like me and Megan, and I had to sit down and rewrite. And so I think that they, while trying to put forward this, hi, I'm Zaslav, this is Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery, we got bold new plans, here it is, and like doing the shareholder type deal. Like, yeah, you kind of, and more articles are saying this, you kind of killed. You're just lining up people to die here. Like, you've lined up an entire row of films to just be shot in the head, executed by people just saying, they like starting it all over soon. I don't know.
Hell, you didn't even bother releasing Batgirl.
Yeah, and then Blue Beetle.
She's looking like a mistake.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2 are in real peril. I'm like Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost. I'm like, girls, you in danger, because I think Blue Beetle could be a really good movie, but people are just going to be like, I'll max this. Like,
I think they've done a better job in their comments of positioning Blue Beetle as like the stepchild that we accepted into our thing. It's not really connected to anything, but we're kind of embracing it.
Yeah.
Aquaman, as a huge fan of the original, Aquaman 2 has me like that one is. They have not done the same kind of job in there. It feels like it's just
no, but I don't think even the people who made Aquaman 2 care. Jason Momoa has been in the press and straight up said, "I already got the check.
Yeah,
like that's done. Whatever happens, I got the check.
Yeah,
and that's it." And he's like, "I got new plans. I got a new future.
I'm not going back over there. Yeah,
I got a new family, even though Vin Diesel doesn't like me."
Well, he's the one that tweeted, right? Like, after his reaction out of DC offices, right? I'm very happy, whatever. Like, he's probably going to, people are theorizing he's playing a different character and all that. And next thing, who knows? We'll see if any of that happens.
Or he could have a whole new take on Aquaman. Whatever he worked out, he's on to something.
Yeah.
And this movie, and I wrote about this after The Flash, about how difficult The Flash has made this for Aquaman 2 specifically. It's like, what universe is this now? Like, is George Clooney, like, are there going to be George Clooney references in this? Like, does it even matter? We know The Flash, like, we're coming to a cul-de-sac here. Is this going to be better underwater effects than, like, Avatar 2? Like, is there anything about this movie that sells it? And it's like, we already heard there's been weird script troubles, like, CinemaCon reaction was like,
is Amber Heard even involved?
Yeah, the Amber Heard, like, this movie has just, dead on arrival, just, it's a floating fish, you know what I mean? Like, right now, so.
See what you did there.
Yeah, I know, right? And then we gotta go through all of 2024 with, like, nothing, right? It's quiet on the DC front until sometime in 2025, so I don't know, man. I think you should have maybe, like, let this play a little bit longer, and then, like, after opening day of Aquaman 2, just been like, guess what? Whole new world coming your way. Have fun. And then people would have been mad they already spent their money, but you already have their money, which is what you want. So, yeah, I mean, Zaslav right now, I mean, he's looking a little Chapek here, but we'll just leave it at that. But positive note, there is one more thing. Our buddy Kevin Smith, who we are obligated to cover in all things that he speaks.
He's the best.
Said that he thinks we could one day see Ben Affleck come back for something like a Dark Knight Returns movie. Now, that was just his speculation because Ben Affleck loves Dark Knight Returns, but I would love to see Ben Affleck come back in either that or maybe even him be the Batman Beyond if we finally can get that movie down the line.
Oh,
see,
as the older Batman.
I'm fine with that because BVS was kind of a Dark Knight Returns anyway.
Yeah,
it was 3 movies in one.
Like we stole the iconography from it, made him a big.
It was the death of Superman.
Yep.
It was Dark Knight Returns.
Yep.
And then introduce Wonder Woman, and you throw a little bit of Legion of Doom in there, and there's a bunch. There's a bunch of stuff in that movie.
There's a lot in that movie.
Maybe we should start our own league. With the fake.
It's good. That's good.
Yeah, man. You make me go home.
But I am excited. Look, I will sign up for Batfleck in any iteration he wants to do. I will at least give it a shot because I love his Batman. He's one of the best parts of the Flash. I love seeing him.
He just figured out how to play the character, man.
I love it.
Just figured this out.
I think he could do the Dark Knight Returns.
Oh yeah,
I think he'd do that really well.
Dude, he'd be great. He would look like a crazy beefed up Batman. Like, yeah.
Sign me up. So
yeah, so I'm in. So we're keeping it alive for you Batfleck fans. We're not abandoning you. We love that stuff. All right, now I got to keep it on the darkness train, which is my MO, and we got to talk. We had something in here celebrating that Across the Spider-Verse had broken 500 million at the box office, and we were getting ready to do a whole little victory lap for Spider-Verse.
It was hope for the human race.
Yeah. Oh, is that you, Connor? You wrote that?
Yeah. That.
This is a pen. See, this is what happens. Karma's getting you for that Flash stuff.
Now I'm singing Sweeney Todd. We all deserve to die, Mrs. Lovett, even you and I.
So, wow, we're going real deep on our references today.
Josh Groban just put out the new soundtrack.
Okay, there you go. All right. This is Comic Book Nation. We do a lot. But, I mean, I want to talk about this Young Thug album, but that's not the show. Back to what we're talking about. Spider, if you haven't heard the breaking headlines, there's been a kind of scathing expose coming out of Vulture and writer Chris Lee, and basically it's a conversation with several artists who reportedly were working on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and it's talking about the kind of crazy, chaotic production that they had to go through. It specifically mentions one of the co-writers and producers, Phil Lord, of the duo Chris Miller and Phil Lord, as having these very kind of non-realistic expectations of how much they can revise, redo, reanimate, and kind of recut the story all the way up until May, and Spider-Verse is in that first half of June release. And that apparently they were still kind of cutting this up and Frankensteining it all the way up into the finish line. And it's not a very good portrait of Phil Lord. This is all alleged, so we don't know. I mean, various people here, I know I have spoken to Chris Miller and Phil Lord on various occasions, and they've always been perfectly fine. I've never had to animate under them, so I can't speak to that. But it is not a very good portrait, but the kind of real gem to take away from this in this article I put up right before we came here is that there ain't no way we getting beyond the Spider-Verse in 2024, definitely not spring. And I think we all were kind of skeptical about that when we were doing our Across the Spider-Verse discussion, which is also another great episode you guys should go back and listen to. But what do you guys think about this? And more specifically, because I was reading this article and really thinking about it, the article says they haven't even started anything on Beyond the Spider-Verse. Like,
the only stuff they have is the stuff that they had before it was split into two.
Yep.
And so, if it follows this same format, there is no way that that date is gonna.
I mean, I think they said, and if I read it specifically again right here, it says there's no way we're getting that movie in 2024. Period.
Yeah.
And I see that. I mean, even with COVID aside, it was a 5-year span between Into the Spider-Verse to Across the Spider-Verse. Let's say COVID added 2. That's still like a 3-year span, right? If you haven't even started on the next one, it's at least like 2 years, right?
Yeah. And then the writer's strike, does that throw another wrinkle into this?
Forgot about that detail.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I didn't even put that in the article. Got to go back and revise that as soon as I'm done here. But the writer's strike is...
Yeah, I don't see how that comes
See you
out.
2026.
Unless they just had an entire team that no one knows about working on it
that was
time.
The assumption.
Yes.
Like, we were talking about this before. Like, the assumption was, okay, when they started announcing those back-to-back dates, it's like, oh, yeah, you must have, like, IMF teams all over the world, like, working on this in little patches, and there must be some simultaneous overlap of you're working on Beyond while you're still hammering out Across. Of course, you're probably not too far into Beyond, but you started it. But no, it's just like, I don't see this.
It's funny, the thing that stuck out to me most about the article was, like, because they did get comment from the studio in some instances, and, like, Amy Pascal and other people, was kind of the, like, shrugging of the shoulders reaction to the report of, like, there's one thing in there that's essentially like, well, if that was difficult, I understand, but, like, that's how movies are made. And it was like, okay, well, that's not maybe the...
Well, it's like the whole there has to be obscene crunch to get out a AAA video game nowadays. Like, that argument really doesn't hold water when you think about it.
Well, because we've seen, like, things like this get pointed out, then change typically slow to happen, but eventually starts to make, inroads. And, like, there's other studios that don't do that anymore, like, or they have big name release and they try and cut back on it, even though some might seep in. Like, there's been real visible change because of consistent, numerous, in the game industry's case, numerous reports and exposés on terrible runnings of studios and games. And so, like, that reaction to me felt like you're kind of missing the, like, I understand, like, this might be the method that they use, but, like, you as a studio head, like, you look at that and you look at that and you go, that's okay? I don't know. Like, to me, that was a really piss poor way to respond to that. To me, I thought that looked bad. You're condoning. Here's the thing. It's not like, look, we've all had bad managers and we've all had people that, like, run a ship in a way that you go, God, how does anything get done? And this very much feels like that. It's micromanaging
Yeah.
And it's also the report is very much like it's micromanaging at points in time that, like, with animation, you have to run through so many different departments, and there's so many different teams working on every single scene, because like there's a great, so one of the artists really breaks it down in a really great way of like, here's lighting has to get this, and then the rigging has to get this, and then this happens here. So if he can only edit when it's in like 3D space and rendered, and then he makes 5 changes, that then has to go back through the whole process. And if you do that at every other scene in a movie that's 2 hours long, that you're holding up an entire, like, there's a whole thing in there about like animators just sitting there waiting to work for months because there was this dam building and then all the work shot down. And so it's just like, that's not, and it's a reputation. It's not just one thing. They talk about it was the same way with Mitchell's. It was the same way with the first Spider-Verse. It was the same way with Lego. Like, it's a reputation thing. And so, I don't know. I read that, and like, the thing that stuck out to me most was how the studio responded. I didn't think it was a great response. I don't think that kind of thing should just be shrugged off.
And that kind of reaction indicates to me that not much is going to change.
Right. And they know about it.
This is the established it's like James Cameron, though. It's like, it kind of sounds like he cemented this as his working reputation, and as long as the results still keep being what the results are, which are like box office crushing / possibly award winning movies, like, people are saying, well, the process is like, it's a problem we have in Philadelphia right now, right? Everybody's like, the process must work, but the process doesn't necessarily work. You might need to revise the process.
Ben Simmons was not the process.
Don't even say his name. But anyway.
You got him beat out of it.
Yeah, he did.
But that's the process now we're having problems with. See the playoffs this year. We're trusting the process. We're not getting into this right now. Shout out to 24/7 Sports. Excellent Paramount Sports outlet. Anyway, the problem is that they trust the process there right now. And so they're like, this is what it takes to make these crazy good movies. And, you know, I think it's like the article says, like, death by 1,000 paper cuts or something. And it's like, that's the experience for the artists who are doing this.
And Hollywood's, it's loaded with history of just directors who were impossible to work with, but actors deliberately wanted to because they knew they'd make great art out of it. I immediately thought of Kubrick. Where it's like, this dude is a nightmare to work with.
Fincher.
But damn, he's going to get you something good.
Yeah, Fincher, same way. Fincher makes people do takes until they, like, want to go insane. He's like,
Gyllenhaal,
there we go.
He
That's
brought
the one.
Gyllenhaal to tears by throwing a book.
And it's just like, hey, man,
but
there
at
we
some
go.
point, you know, I mean, and it's hard too because they point to box office success. I mean, they have a proven, aside from Solo, they have a proven track record.
This made $500 million, and it's already past what the first movie did.
And it's just, you know, unfortunate. And I know, so we're getting some of the comments of like, I mean, this is a sad known fact. It's just when it's brought to attention, there's what, 5-6 people they interview here. There's probably 20 that wanted to, right, and just didn't want to kind of move that next step is hard. Okay, you're putting your job on the line. It gets like, there's a lot of things, or you leave your name gets out, and like there's a genuine fear and nature to kind of going on a limb like that and talking about someone in a place of power and prominence, right? So it's just unfortunate.
I hope he wasn't a prick to the 14-year-old that made the Lego scene, because that would just suck.
I know, I find that hard. I mean, that's hard. And, I mean, Spider-Verse is giving a lot of animators a lot of opportunities. Like, I mean, there's even a young man who won the thing who's doing the kind of the Miles Morales Panic Attack short. Like, there's a lot going on. Or, like, Web of Darkness, I forget what it's called. But, yeah, this is weird and kind of complicated. And people are asking in the comments, could we see something like animators begin to unionize and start to go the WGA route? And pretty soon, I'm not going to be surprised if that happens. Especially when we start talking about Secret Invasion and what Marvel just did when we come back from a break. But, we're going to keep an eye on this. Do not be surprised. Comic Book Nation's here telling you first. Do not be surprised when that Beyond the Spider-Verse delay, and I would say possibly indefinite delay, is announced. So, been a week for that, too. So, R.I.P. El Muerto.
Oh man, I'm so looking forward to that movie.
I was too, strangely.
No Sasha Banks for you.
Everything about that movie rules, though. Like there's like everything. That was a bonus. That was a bonus. Like everything sounds so good.
What was a comic we read that it reminded me of? The wrestling comic, you know.
Oh man, do a powerbomb.
Yeah, do a
yeah.
power bomb. It sounded like they were going to do like a kind of like
Such
a do
a
a
good
power
idea.
bomb type deal. But all right, that's a different story. That's a different show. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to break down Marvel's Secret Invasion premiere in full spoilers and talk about those AI credits and all the controversy that has kicked up. We'll also talk about Netflix's Skull Island, a bunch of big comic events that happened this week, and AEW's Forbidden Door. Stay tuned for all of it. Welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. We're talking behind the scenes about something that's obviously got us very up and hyped up, which is Marvel's Secret Invasion. So, Marvel's Secret Invasion premiered on Disney Plus this week. It stars Samuel L. Jackson, Emilia Clarke, Olivia Colman, Ben Fadir. Oh man, I had it. I messed it up at the end. I had his name down. I practiced. But anyway, we have a good, talented cast from Secret Invasion. Ben Mendelsohn, I knew that part. Kingsley Ben-Adir, Ben Mendelsohn, all in Secret Invasion. And we're going to talk about this full spoilers. So if you have not seen Secret Invasion, please do just mute us for about 10 minutes while we go over this. And then you can jump back in and listen later after you've seen the show. This is your last chance. Spoiler alert for Secret Invasion. All right, Connor and Casey and I shared some of my initial reaction thoughts on Secret Invasion on this week's bonus round episode that we did. But now that we're all here, well, I'm just curious to what you guys thought. There's been an interesting dialogue about this. Some people love the acting talent and the intrigue and the spy intrigue of this show. Other people are saying, this is boring as hell, Marvel. Like, what are you making me sleep through this for? I think Charlie Ridgely had a funny meme where he posted about, like, me. People were doing, like, me at the beginning of a show versus me at the end. And it was just, like, people were doing it for Secret Invasion, like, just casually watching. And then at the end, because of the big death, like, and then Charlie Ridgely's was just Martin Freeman sitting back on a couch looking at a phone. It was the same exact picture for the beginning and the end. We miss you, Turn Up Charlie. Charlie became a dad, so he's been doing newborn dad stuff, so it's hard to get him in here. But, what did you guys think? Was this spy intrigue for you guys? Because, I mean, we're a crew that actually like Amazon Citadel. We were like, that's all right. We need some spy stuff.
Yeah.
How'd you guys feel about Secret Invasion?
I'm struggling with it. I really like we said on Wednesday. I enjoy the actors kind of getting to cook, to take their victory laps, to just, hey, it's Olivia Colman. Let's let her choose scenery for a few minutes. Sam Jackson's always a great screen presence. Let's let him do his thing as grumpy old man Nick Fury. Ben Mendelsohn, Krennic from the guys who liked Rogue One. Dude's awesome. Mm-hmm. But the actual spy game stuff of it, I was kind of sitting back. I'm like, do I care? Do I care about enough of this? And then why the Skrulls? Why, when it comes to the comics, the Skrulls are brought in for a variety of reasons. It was communism, and then in 2008 it was Islamophobia, and now it's, hey, let's have a false flag war with Russia. And it's like, what are we trying to say here right now? And we're basically going back on what Captain Marvel, a movie I'm not crazy about, but one of the good points it did make was, hey, the Skrulls have always been kind of made out to be these jerks. What if they're just fine. They're just refugees. They're harmless. They actually just want to exist peacefully. And now we're going back the other way of, yeah, but it wasn't comic accurate, so let's get a Splinter Cell of them
Oh, see,
who
I don't
are
think
all
that's
pissed
it at all,
off.
though. I don't think that's it at all. I think I like that part. I like that they're doing that because they're making it this all. I didn't understand why Secret Invasion was being made into this from the get go. I was not excited about a Nick Fury show. I just wasn't. I look at that and go, like, on paper, I go, that's boring to me. It's like watching another Amanda Waller show. I understand. Like, there's certain characters I don't necessarily need to have a whole show about them. I like them more interspersed and moving things around. So when this whole event was made into this, I was just very like, whatever. And then as I watched the episode, I haven't had the chance to see screeners, so I've only seen the first episode. But as seeing the episode and understanding that this is really a story about Nick Fury abandoning it's really about Nick Fury feeling like kind of discovering that he abandoned some people. He abandoned a lot of people. And walking back in, he can't just be the ordinary Nick Fury. He's actually, in some ways, lost some steps. And he's trying to come to terms with that. And it very much is a grumpy old Nick Fury, but it's not grumpy old Nick Fury because, like, I can do this all day. It's grumpy Nick Fury who is starting to realize that he is actually a little bit, he's off his game. He's outclassed in some ways. And the Skrulls are a direct result of that. He screwed that up. He didn't deliver on the promise that both he and Carol made, but even more so him, that because Carol's been doing other things. Like, you've seen that she's been, like, defending other stuff and whatever. He, like, legit just, like, took his ball and went home. So for Ben Mendelsohn to, like I thought he was the star of this whole episode. I thought every scene he's in,
dramatic,
because also those two characters they were there from that inception.
They have history.
And so they have a connection, and he feels he's back simply because he feels he owes him because he's screwed up. It wouldn't make sense if someone promised you a home and they didn't deliver, and it wasn't that just things kept happening and they couldn't deliver. They just walked away. There's a part of me that goes, human behavior dictates that half of those people are going to be pissed about that, and they're going to want to go to someone else to regain some of that power, take control of their lives. That's what the Skrulls are doing. It makes perfect sense that a big group of people will go, screw you, I'm done waiting, I'm going. That, to me, makes them more human in that. It makes them more of a people as opposed to just, oh, hey, green aliens.
Yeah, I think this...
I like that.
To answer your question and some of the comments that we're seeing, you are accurate in saying, like, the Skrulls have been used as metaphors for real-life things, like Secret Invasion was an Islamophobia.
It wasn't subtle.
No, it was very much... I mean, Jarvis is used as a suicide bomber in the first opening of that, right? And we were all just laughing about Brian Michael Bendis and that whole era of just, like, postal 9/11 craziness where we were all cheering Jack Bauer taking lamp things and electrocuting people without due process, and we're like, that's what you need. And so we get it. But I think I think this is hard for people to kind of make is that there is such a big time jump between the events of Captain Marvel in the 90s and where we are by the time this is taking place. And I can tell you without spoilers that episode 2 hammers home very concretely for you, like, these Skrulls have been pissed about waiting for this amount of time and not having these resolutions despite heading into space, running all around, and that whole thing. And I don't know if this episode frames this correctly, like, about, yeah, we went off into space, last you saw us, and then why are we even back here? How did we even get back to Earth, and why did we come back? And that becomes more prominent in episode 2. But I think in this, they're a kind of metaphor for the kind of worldwide turn that we've seen towards nationalism because people have felt disenfranchised and, like, or displaced, more foreign, here obviously disenfranchised nationalism, but across the globe, like, there's so many wars, so many refugees, so many people that have been displaced for their homes that we kind of don't think about every day, who within those camps, whether it's South America, Eastern in Europe, the Middle East, everything in Ukraine right now, like, all of this eventually boils over. These people are sitting in destitute conditions. A lot of them are out of their homes. Nobody's kind of fighting for them. You see it across the world. People are beginning to entire civilizations are beginning to revolt and do things. And so I think this is what this metaphor is. It's kind of this cooking thread of displaced people within this who don't care about any of these other countries. They don't have their own. They've just been left out, and they're like, screw all of you. Like, and you know, they're kind of beginning to lash out and strike out, which is a thing that is not too far away from both where we are now and where we might be in a couple years, like 5 years from now. So I
guess,
get that part of it.
I
But,
guess where the episode stumbles is it doesn't make clear, A, what was Fury doing in space, and B, how long he's been gone for.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that whole thing is, I mean, let's just be honest, okay? Like, the MCU has dropped some real big balls in terms of storytelling parts. The cosmic side, and we've discussed this here multiple times, that the cosmic MCU promise has never really been delivered. Guardians is the closest that we've come, but it's been a closed circuit. James Gunn was like, I'm giving you my version of the cosmos, and that's about it. Except for them showing up in Thor, which people don't necessarily like anymore. So that wasn't the greatest crossover. But yeah, like what happened in the Kree Skrull Wars? What did Carol Danvers do out there all that time that didn't let her come back for Infinity War and Endgame and all of that for most of the time? What Fury has been doing up in Saber, or whatever they call it. Was it Saber in this? Or
Saber. Yeah.
Saber, like, on the
Sabre.
space. Sabre. I like that. Stop
Sabre.
Stop it, because I do that at home all the time, and it annoys my family. My son, he's 5. He can't get over the fact that I call limes limes all the time. I'm like, hand me a lime. It's like, that's not it. I'm like, but anyway, don't derail us. But yeah, we don't have any knowledge of that cosmic side.
Yeah.
And the cosmic story's been so kind of disjointed. Like Asgard doesn't feel connected to Guardians, doesn't feel connected to the Kree Skrull stuff, even though Krees show up in Guardians and in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's just like, all of this is still a mess. And I'm kind of mad that it's put so much undue pressure on the Marvels, which should be like more of an enjoyable kind of female comedy, romp type deal. And now everybody's gonna be looking at that. Unless this show answers some massive questions, which it can. Yeah. And I want it to. I think people have all said, I would love to see a Fury blip moment. Like, I hope they actually deal with that, because they've suggested, that how Fury's been affected by the blip.
Yeah. I will say this. I feel like there is a bit of self-awareness in the scene where people keep going up to Fury and saying, you haven't been the same since Endgame. And what's the biggest criticism people have towards the MCU right now? You haven't been the same since Endgame. You don't have your fastball anymore. Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, you're right. That's a good little metaphor.
I hope they toy with it. And also, oh my God, I'm blanking on her
Maria
name.
Hill?
Okay, so...
Emilia Clarke.
Yes, thank you. That's who I was trying to go
Daenerys Targaryen.
But here's the thing. My other thing is, we're going full spoilers, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have this thing. I adore Maria Hill in the books. I very much am a
Even
Maria
Civil
Hill
War?
person. She served the character's role in that whole thing.
Maria Hill's always reliable.
But she's so much more interesting to me in that role than Nick Fury was, because Nick Fury was very much always on like the hero side, and Maria Hill was always a little bit closer to the books, but she would, for certain people, she would bend the rules and stuff. And throughout the years, I have enjoyed that character a lot.
You're talking about MCU, not specifically comics.
No, I'm talking comics.
Oh, okay.
I have not liked the MCU version, regardless of the fact that it has an amazing actress playing her.
Kids, in 2012, your Aunt Robin joined S.H.I.E.L.D.
I love her,
all go to the monk,
and she's
baby.
had a couple like shining moments here and there, but that character has been so underutilized. So we get to this episode, and I thought, oh man, I love the scene between her and Fury. It's great. You get to see her like really jump in there for a little bit and get some back, and then she dies. And I went like, I just go, here's the thing. It makes sense from a standpoint of, look, who are you going to, in this immediate circle, who are you going to take out that makes sense to Fury's going to hit him artist, whatever. I understand from like a broad point of view why you would do that. It's just unfortunate to me that like that character was just so underserved and like never had the reign or the space or the freedom to really just be able to be awesome. And I always wanted to see that, and now that loop is closed. Yeah. And that's not going to happen.
It's crazy that one of her best actually spotlighted outings is in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she kicked some butt in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, it's so unfortunate. And then especially after getting to see her here and actually get some of that real grounded performance, a conversation between her and him is great. It's just, it's disappointing. I will say I enjoyed this episode more than I thought I would. I went in with a little skeptical, and I came out of it going, number one, I just enjoy espionage stuff in general. But the father-daughter relationship between
that did work for me.
That is the thing that to me grounds all this in something that's real and not just spy espionage stuff. That was like that whole conversation. They have a whole conversation, and that I felt that. I was like, man. So if that continues, I am very much in. I'll be happy.
All I'll say about episode 2 is they definitely give you weight to Maria Hill's death. It's not just like a cheap. I know some people are saying fridging, but they do. I mean, there is a pretty heavy scene about that in episode 2, and episode 2 is a lot more about like these character relationships, and there's a lot more kind of good, heavy speeches about like between characters and stuff, and you get to have some fun with Olivia Colman, who is even more fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
As you get to see. And there's one line of dialogue that's not going to make sense now, but it's now one of my favorite sayings. Whenever I like go in a room, the first thing I'm going to say is, "Where's the trapdoor in here?" And you'll see what that means in about a week. But so I'm interested to see what people say after the second episode of Secret Invasion, because it also ends on a cliffhanger that I want to see what people say about the second episode cliffhanger, because that's going to be a wild one. But let's talk about the other subject about this real quick. WTF is up with these opening AI credits? As I tweeted, okay, I'm not going to get too deep into the Skynet of it all. I don't feel really good about all this and how quickly we're barreling. Because, like, am I the only one that read sci-fi books and watched movies? Like, we start barreling. I mean, I feel like I'm Morpheus right now and be like, in the 21st century, at the height of our arrogance, we gave birth to AI. And then, then we got scorched skies, right? So, in the midst, and it just talk about bad timing. Like, I tweeted out, my thing is not the crime isn't the AI. Good for you for trying to make art, buddy. But the crime is the human beings, the multitude of human beings who looked at those credits and said, yeah, let's go with that.
But like, even from because like timing, I agree. Timing is a huge part of it. But like, this has been the case for so long now. And from the timing of conception of the idea of like, we should do that. There hasn't been a time in the last 2 years where using AI in this type of fashion would have been well received. There's not. It's like delivering an NFT. It's not. There's just not. So I don't know how it got greenlit.
The thing is, I get the thought process behind it, because setting aside the whole stealing people's artwork.
You can't though.
Let me for a second, because I'm going to try and take it from their perspective, because you've got statements from the director to Polygon saying, I don't really understand how this worked. We hired some writers, and then we hired some artists, took their art, put it in an AI machine, and this is what we got. He's outright saying, I don't understand how it worked. But that is not a great look. But
you think?
I get the big criticism AI art has from a purely aesthetic standpoint is that it never gets things like eyes and faces and teeth and fingers and hands. It never gets those things right. So you were trying to find artwork that represented the human form but doesn't quite get it right.
Yes.
Because we're talking about people that are imitating the human form.
Yes.
From that point, just there, I can get why they went, let's do what the AI artists are doing, where everybody's faces and eyes, you can tell it's human, but it's the uncanny valley. So it breaks up.
Artists can't do that?
And
artists can't literally...
and that's where the domino effect
They've been doing it for years. So
I get the initial idea, and then it's dumb.
Then it's dumb. You never get past the point of that. You never get past, there's artists that have so much surrealist takes and can do all kinds of things and making things look odd and disturbing and a little off or whatever. You can always do that with someone who can do it themselves. There was never a point. I mean, it's not illegal for them to do this. I'm not calling them to they should be taken to court. But what I'm saying is there was never a part in the last couple years when this all got greenlit to go, that would be smart. And that would be a good look for us.
More to the point, nobody enjoys it. People enjoy good art credit sequences. people sit down and still watch like Catch Me If You Can's like credit sequence.
I still love the Daredevil one.
Yeah.
Just all the blood.
Yeah, and like the artist generated credit sequence is by a person who knows like how each image might psychologically affect you or suggest something or do that. You kind of need a human for that. Like, this was just not even entertaining. I didn't even notice it the first time because they were just so bland and random. I was just not even watching it on the screener. And then when the controversy blew up, I went back and I was just like, yeah, this is pretty terrible. Like,
And I've seen more people talk about that than, hey, we set off a bomb in Russia and, oh, yeah, we killed Colby Smulders.
yeah. and
Yes.
More people are talking about this.
Yes, absolutely. It's like they're talking about the wrong thing. It was always either going to be no one cared or it's going to be a huge lightning rod. Like, why take the shot? I don't know, like that. Like, it doesn't. That's a win-lose. You want no one to be talking about that because they're talking about your show and they're talking about their reactions and things like that. So it was a loss
or
from
like, somebody
beginning.
pointed out, and Damon Streams, shout out to Damon Streams, one of our best fans, kind of said in the comments, it's, you know, the, whatchamacallit, his name from Hawkeye,
Oh yeah,
Matt Aja. What's his name? The artist's name?
Matt Fraction.
No,
that's the writer. David
the
Aja.
artist. David Aja's art for the Hawkeye opening credit sequence. Boom. That's a nice callback.
Gorgeous.
It's a talking point. Looks great. Marvel, come on, man. After and into the time when everybody's ragging on you for your effects and
right.
all this
I
stuff.
don't know.
like,
It's just
come on,
anyway.
man. All right, come on. Crazy stories about Secret Invasion, though. If you read some of the interviews about, if you read about Marvel security, that stuff is crazy.
Oh, yeah, the drone.
Yeah, don't think you can
they
fly
went
a
back and
drone
found
over
him.
at a Marvel production. They're going to be waiting. Kevin Feige will be waiting for you at your house in your bedroom, looking through your diary, and be like, "Took you long enough to get here."
And then
You're
Sam
like,
Jackson
"Oh."
told that story about the script, and I saw
Yeah.
people commenting like, they killed that guy.
Oh yeah, the guy who stole the Avengers script. I remember that. I had just started doing this when those leaks were out, and people were like, "Hey man, you want to try to buy it?" No. What are you talking about? Like, people were trying to sell that script for so much money. I dug up a blog post on it that was hilarious, and yeah, Marvel security's crazy. It's real. I mean, Emilia Clarke did Game of Thrones, and even she was like, "I was scared." So. Those Kevin Feige sniper memes are not a joke. So I think we've talked enough about Marvel. We talked bad about them, so I'm gonna move on. All right, moving right along. Do you guys want to nail the wrestling part, or do you want to do comics?
Let's do it. Let's knock out this wrestling bit. Ladies and gentlemen, AEW X and JPW Forbidden Door is this Sunday in Toronto. We'll be covering it live. And Matt, it's the second big annual AEW New Japan crossover. And unlike last year where it was plagued with injuries, both sides are relatively fully healthy. It still feels like a 2-match card, but I'm okay with that because the 2 matches they're offering are probably going to be on my top 5 matches of the year.
They're really good. Yeah.
Like Okada, Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay. The first match at Wrestle Kingdom has been on my match of the year list since January 4th.
Yeah.
If that gives you an indication of just how freaking good that match was. And they're running it back, and they're running it back here in North America. And there's a whole thing with Don Callis and Takeshita and the BCC versus the Elite. There's like 20 stories going on at once, and it's like in the middle of all of that, hey, we're going to give you probably one of the best matches of the year. So I'm good with that. And then the other match, the main event, a match I never thought I'd see in my life, Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada, a.k.a. the Rainmaker, a.k.a. arguably the greatest Japanese wrestler ever. If that's all, honestly, this show could be 2 matches and I'd be fine with it. The rest is just window dressing. I don't care that we've got these big 6 and 10-man tag matches. They'll be fun. Orange Cassidy's in a 4-way, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
But all I need is the ending. All I need is these last 2, and I'm good.
You know, I can't really disagree with you because I mean, obviously, these are the ones that are bringing the most attention and for good reason. I will say there are some other interesting matches. But I feel like the other one, it's more of a tale of what is missing. The match that we thought a couple weeks we were getting with CM Punk and Kenta is the one that got away because that would have really been the 3 that would have been an amazing trilogy of matches,
yes.
Right? That one has so much history baked in without those 2 ever really being in a ring. It's just. That one is unfortunate. I mean, Punk's still going to be there, so it'll be a big thing. But, that one is the one that I was like, oh, man, that would have been an amazing 3. Also, Tony Storm versus Willow.
That'll be great.
Should be great.
That could happen on a Dynamite.
But right, that's what I felt like. There's a couple matches here that I kind of felt like, oh, that can happen on Collision, or that can. There is a little less of that specialness outside of those two.
And the hoop they have to jump through is there are certain guys that the New Japan side do not want to lose.
Yeah.
And then there are guys on AEW where it's like, well, you're not going to have MJF lose to a New Japan guy, right? So you put MJF with a guy like Tanahashi, who very accomplished, but is past his prime, so it's fine for him to take a loss. And Sonata, who they just crowned as champion back in April, yeah, he's going to take down a mid-carder like Jungle Boy, and there's no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Now, those aren't matches that we're all like, oh, I can't freaking wait to see it.
Yeah.
But it's just it's the game you have to play with crossovers like these. But let me ask you this: the big two, who you got?
I say Ospreay, and then how am I gonna not say Okada? There's no way he.
You're right. There is no way because he's not losing.
There's no way he loses. I'm sorry. Like, and Danielson's at this point, like, he can take a loss and it's fun. No one. It has nothing to do. He's Teflon. It had nothing to do with his legacy and who he is as a. Everyone's gonna think he's just as big a deal next week if he takes a loss here and shows up. Omega though, like that one, maybe like 2 years ago, I would have said like, oh, there's no way Omega's losing. Like there was a little bit of that air. Now, over the last couple of years, he's been a lot more kind of not even willing, because I'm not saying he wasn't willing before, but he's just it's more likely that he might take a loss here or there in stuff. So I think that
I think Will's winning either to set up a trilogy or to get Will his win back.
Yeah,
because Kenny can lose and immediately go in 5 different directions with other stories on AEW.
Agreed.
This is kind of all Will has right now.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, they're not putting him back in the World Championship picture right now. So I'm fine with Will winning here and Okada winning, but then it's 2 New Japan guys taking the 2 big matches.
Which is okay. I don't think that matters. In this case, we're talking 2 of the best. Like, I think it's okay, and I think the 2 people they're facing... Again, this is another one. I would have been really interested to see who won Punk.
Punk's not coming back for anything less than a win. Are you kidding me?
Because that's probably why it's not happening, by the way. That's probably why I imagine. I don't see AEW not giving the bag. So I think it more had to do with things like that, creative, whatever. But yeah, no, it's going to be a good show. There's a couple things that could probably be cut and make it a smaller show and just have these 2 give these all the time in the world. Like, let these.
And if Orange Cassidy steals Forbidden Door for the 2nd year in a row, he's instantly a nominee for Wrestler of the Year. There will be no debate. He will be on the list. But ladies and gentlemen, you can check out our full coverage of Forbidden Door this Sunday over at comicbook.com.
Somewhere JK's clapping and celebrating.
Oh, he's overjoyed right now.
Orange Cassidy's his favorite wrestler.
Also, we were supposed to mention Netflix's Skull Island's now out, but nobody really liked it too much, so watch it if you want, I guess.
Yeah, it's just, man.
It looks bad.
It's just super, like, okay, I'm a huge fan of Kong Skull Island. I love that movie. That movie's awesome.
I generally enjoy the whole thing.
So, like, I was super hyped coming into this because, it's another... chance to explore the island, see all this cool stuff. It's episode 3, number 1, before you end episode 2, or end of episode 2 before you see Kong, number 1, and you see his like foot or whatever, and then it's just all these characters I just don't care about. Like, these characters are so boring, and
their voices. There's some good voice actors, but like the voices they have for these are just kind of all. Everybody's voice seems off for a Monster Island movie.
I don't need another Baby Kong story. Give me the Kong Godzilla rematch. Damn it!
It's not even like Baby Kong, but it's the one thing I'll say about it is there are some cool sequences where the monsters are like. It is thrilling when when they're running from monsters, but because they can do stuff in the animated form.
Those crabs suck.
Yeah, it's pretty silly. It's pretty silly.
I'm not a fan.
It's not a strong recommendation from us. So.
Nah, bruh.
It's a thing. You can watch it. It has people talking in it. Let's move on to the big thing this week. Let's talk about some comics, Matt. There were some game-changing comics this week.
Wonder Woman number 800. It was a big. This was hard to actually narrow down which books because as we'll get into the Rex, there was great ones across the board. Wonder Woman 800 ends the current Becky Cloonan run And then in the epilogue sets up the next run, which is going to be, if you go and watch our wonderful interview with Tom King, is going to be the next creative team to take over. So we're setting up Trinity and all that. But the majority of the book is kind of this kind of full circle wrap up moment for Diana. It really goes back and looks at the effect she's had on all these other characters, one in the Wonder Woman universe, but also Superman, Batman, and in that it succeeds. I actually there's moments of this I really enjoyed, especially the Batman section.
That was nice.
That was a really good, and the Superman one's good. And
I mean, they started off on a really good foot.
Yes,
with Yara, and I was like,
okay, well, so the best part of this of this book is that number one, we saw Yara again. Number two, the artwork is amazing on that sequence, and it just goes to show. I looked at that back and forth between her and Diana. I was like, where is her freaking book? Like, this character needs.
I didn't even need her to have a book. I'm just like, why did we get robbed of like more space and time to have? I mean, and we're gonna get into my larger thing about this because I like Trinity and I already like this setup.
I love it.
I like what Tom King's doing with this future, and he's nuts with doing this. And kind of setting up this future that makes you automatically go, okay, I'm already invested in this. And I'm like, I'm already invested in this, the new Trinity of her, Damon, and John.
Damien as Batman.
In his trench coat and all that.
Phenomenal. He's amazing. Like, the dynamic between those three.
Like, DC has already kind of sold me on that.
Yeah.
Like, I would want to follow this next gen of heroes. And now we have this huge mystery, and the mystery of this old king we don't know. And like, this was the war. There's wars, army, America nearly got scrapped, and then this baby gets born, and Wonder Woman's baby daddy is a big mystery, and like all of that is already intriguing. So I like Trinity, but I love Yara Flor too.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm just mad that we got robbed of DC giving us any space and time where Yara was truly like Diana's sidekick in like kind of or just her trainee or whatever they set it up. But those two together was great. Like, I like awesome. Diana being Diana, and then Yara being kind of like a more wild kind of like.
Their first interaction, like, did you not like think I was gonna see it? Yeah, I clocked it. Like, she's so sure of herself and confident in the presence of. You're so used to seeing it with some of the other characters of like, they're very. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, they're very like respectful, and it's being in Diana's presence very humbling. Reverent, yes. Yeah. And so Yara is the complete opposite. She talks to her like she's known her for her entire life, and so it's wonderful to see that. But we get to see Donna Troy, Cassie. There's a lot of great Artemis. There's a lot of great characters in here. Some of it was a little long. There's parts. There's a lot, and I was like, you could have cut this whole section.
I kind of tapped out when Donna Troy showed up. I'm like, I'm done.
Why? Donna Troy's amazing.
No, but that's the thing. Yara makes you realize all those other Wonder Woman sidekicks.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay, we're going too far. No, Donna Troy is phenomenal.
She's the most forgettable.
I like Tom Taylor's Titans too. I enjoy Titans, but I do not care about Donna Troy.
No, come on, man.
This is sacrilege. Donna Troy is phenomenal. Cassie, I feel that way about Cassie in a lot of ways, but so I can't hate. Everyone has their favorite, but I did think this was a little long. We get in the parts where I'm just like, okay, like I would have loved, especially after you read the epilogue, because the epilogue is so that had me from the very first panel to the last. I was glued, and I went, I want to read that now. Yeah, and so to have that kind of be the closer. I was like, I would have loved to. Can we get 4 more pages of that and like trim a little bit here? So as an ending, as a full circle moment, I like what it did. It's a little long, a little too talky at points, but I still really found a lot to love.
Only, like we say, there's only 2 types of these kind of legacy number, like milestone issues. There's one where you're completing a story arc that's been taken place in a big kind of climactic way, and then there's the ones that you're doing like a retrospective on a hero. Mm-hmm. Batman 900 was kind of a combination of both of those with its weird, crazy multiverse hopping story. But this was definitely a retrospective.
Yeah, very much.
So this was just about kind of making us celebrate Wonder Woman and what she means to all these different characters and stuff before giving us a cool new story to hook us back in. Yeah. But I'm in for this. Tom King. I'm in for this new story. And and I want to see more. I hope they hop ahead and do things in the future with this kind of DC. If we can do Legion of Superheroes, why can't we do this?
Right. And I hope at some point down the line, Trinity, the Wonder Woman universe is proven. You can have multiple characters. Nubia's doing great in her own series, and they're really starting to flesh her out. it can support multiple characters. I need Yara in something. I don't care what it is. It can be whatever type. Like if you want to move her over to whatever the next Justice League is, which they've teased numerous times, do that. But I need Yara in
I
stuff.
would even take an older Yara as like a mentor friend to Trinity. Like that'd be
I will take
would
her.
explain some of the attitude. I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I need more of her in the books.
Yeah, same here.
And then moving over to Marvel, Ultimate Invasion. This feels so quick. It feels like we just talked about this announcement, and then they were like,
Yeah, it was.
It's here. It's coming.
It's like, we rushed it out so you can't get mad. Haha, here it is.
So this is obviously Jonathan Hickman, Brian Hitch, and as a huge fan of the Maker, I am a giant fan of that character because it is honestly the most accurate version of Reed Richards.
Oh wow.
Oh my
There's
god.
your fire. There's your fire.
Wow.
This is the
So
best thing right here.
Today. Yeah, there's a grenade today. There we go.
It's just him living up to his actual, like what he is in life. So
So you are a Reed hater.
I've always disliked Reed. So Maker steals this whole issue. This is really a Maker
Yeah, it
issue.
is.
Aside from a very quick but very good cameo from Miles and the Illuminati and some other things, this is really let's see how awesome Maker is at being lethal, at planning things out. You really get to see kind of how he thinks so far ahead.
It's clear that Hickman is the only one who kind of really understands, like,
Yeah.
that this evil version of Reed Richards should be like a serious universe. I think what they list him in the prison and his
Universal
prison.
Yes.
intelligence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
universal, but like universal threat. Like he's not just like they always play the Maker as like a minor threat. He's like showing up in King in Black.
Yeah, it was in the
Like,
Venom book. Like,
and it's
I'm just a random babysitter.
Yeah, and
Why?
it's just like, no, this guy, an evil Reed Richards, is definitely a threat to multiple realities.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And so they did a great job. I mean, even the first couple pages, they, the prison break sequence is fantastic and just and kind of gruesome in how he gets out and stuff. So then we get to the Miles scene, and that tends to be Miles is very in it very briefly, but I like the dynamic between them and how Miles is perfectly content to stay here and Maker's constantly teasing that, like, I want to go home. And then we get the big thing at the end, the kind of the showdown. And it's not really a showdown. It's really just Maker being able to deliver dialogue while everyone else just like tries to take him down and just having no luck. But the teases are there of him essentially restoring. He's going back to the Ultimate Universe, but a version of the Ultimate Universe that has not fully developed yet to when he left. And so he's able to, the big tease at the end obviously is Peter Parker and Spider-Man and him being able to like stop the spider and go like, man, he gives this like great speech of like, oh, these things can have so many effects and would it kill you? I don't know. Like, it goes through the whole thing and I love it. And then also there's the tease of like, maybe things play out, certain things in history play out the same regardless of what you change. And maybe but he's always going to be Spider-Man. Maybe we get that later on. But I, as someone who is not on board with the, hey, let's bring the Ultimate Universe back, because I wasn't really missing it. There's plenty to do in the regular one. I didn't need a whole other universe of characters. I still really enjoyed this issue and thought it did some interesting things. I will be interested to see if that continues. Like, how much is Maker the central part of issue 2? If he's not, and we start moving the ball around a little bit, will I be as interested? I don't know, because I'm just a big fan of the character. We'll see. But so far, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about first issues and how pivotal they can be. And this is what I like about an issue, is this is just a straight up, people are saying it's very cinematic, and it very much was, but Hickman is very clear cut. It's like, boom, here are the beats, and I'm presenting you with this, like, it's going to be complex and sci-fi and all this heady stuff, but I'm just going to present it to you in a very simple, straightforward way. Guys getting out of prison heist escape plan is essentially what we're reading. And it's like heroes want to stop somebody they are, and like you said, this is a Maker. The Maker is the Thanos and like Infinity War protagonist of this. It's like no hope of stopping this guy. The plan's already been made. It's already in motion. You're finding out about it too late. And the heroes can't do anything, and so it is this kind of and I love how he plays with like comic book action. You see them doing like throwing everything in this big action scene at a force field. Well, the maker's just sitting there chilling, delivering dialogue, and just being like, "Well, I guess you'll see if you can find out what this is all about." And Reed's finally like, "Oh my god, I know what he's doing." Like he's like, "Yeah, I knew you'd find out too late." And he's just like, "Peace," and he like leaves, and it's just like they can't stop what's happening here, and like yeah, it sets up intrigue for what is he making of this ultimate universe that he's kind of now influencing. And people are speculating, even in the comments, like possibly without heroes, without the Marvel heroes, where he can kind of rule as King God. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing is going to be, like, the hook for me will be kind of having this, why is this a threat to anybody else? Because he just kind of essentially says, like, I just want to peace out and go back to my universe, but it has to be something bigger than that, right?
Yeah.
So why is this a threat? And like, yeah, then what is the obsession and drive? Or conversely, is there a threat here, or does it become something about Reed that he's like obsessed with finding him and kind of sabotaging what he's trying to do here? So either way, I'm good, and I want to know which way it goes. So
Yeah.
It's a solid book. Hickman's a hell of a writer.
Yeah.
He is here to monologue and draw graphs, and that's about it. The question I have is the scope.
Yeah.
Is how big is this really? And based on what y'all are saying, it doesn't sound like Marvel's really given away the game of like, is this actually the Ultimate Universe's raging back, or is it just the maker wants to run his own universe, and you're going to see some similarities to what the Ultimate Universe was doing, but in the end, it's not going to matter in terms of we're doing two completely separate lines again.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm like, okay, how big is this really, or is it just we're throwing words like Ultimate Universe out again, and we're having the maker and we're having him talk with Miles to be like, hey, if you were reading back then, this might be important, or it might just be a one-off, and it's back to everything still in 616. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a good question. I would actually really love if they kept it a little more insulated and just let it be Maker's playground, and you can move characters over if you want, or make it into his own series. Yeah, I don't want to see it. It doesn't need it. There doesn't need to be a whole line of Ultimate Comics and stuff. As a huge fan of Ultimate Spider-Man, it's one of the best Spider-Man books ever to me. I don't need it another one. Like you can just fix the one, fix the one you've got. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't need a whole other line. That said, I do love the idea of just him being able to run wild and having new heroes pop up and make that a little ball that you get to play in and have new creators come in and mess with that. And I think that's fun. So I hope for that. That's the one I hope for.
I'm worried about all, and this. I'm worried that this could be just a repository for all Hickman ideas for Hickman, because I mean, it's noticeable that there's Krakoa stuff thrown in here about the gates and stuff.
The portal,
I'm like, is all of the X-Men ideas getting portaled over to the Ultimate Universe?
But I was also like, he got taken off the X-Men books for this? Like, why?
I don't think he got.
No, I think he only had a limited run.
He wanted to move. So the whole thing with X and House and then Reign was that he wanted the next one was going to be Fall, but Marvel didn't want to move, from reports and everything, Marvel didn't want to move on yet from that Reign era, because honestly books were doing really well. They were coming up with new ideas. They wanted to explore it more and get more out of it. So they weren't ready to move on yet. And he went, okay, here's the template for Fall. Here's the template for what the next chapter is. I'm going to go do something else, because you're not. Like, there was kind of a time thing. So he jumped to other projects as opposed to just kind of pedaling, what is it, like, pedaling your wheels or whatever the saying is. Spinning your wheels to kind of just do that. And now finally they're moving to Fall. But that was in his initial template. Real quick with Rex. So this really could just be the Tom Taylor recommendation thing. 2 out of 3 here. And I just noticed that it's all DC, but I read a lot of DC this week. Nightwing is fantastic. Nightwing 105 is all first person. It's all from Nightwing's point of view. Taylor's done this in other books of kind of just like trying a concept and just going the entire thing, a lot like the old Nuff Said issues and stuff. This one really works. It could just be a gimmick, but Taylor does it so well of like really making you feel like you're inhabiting Dick Grayson and you're just him. And so like from the opening scenes of being with Barbara and the puppy to all the action, there's a whole like train sequence, and that looks phenomenal in that first part. All you see is his hands moving, and it made me honestly go like, wow, if Mirror's Edge was DC but really kind of taken to that next level, like, man, that would be awesome. So there's just a lot of great stuff. Also, Tom Taylor, very few people can write Barbara and Dick like this. Like, their dynamic is phenomenal. It's pretty self-contained too. So like, yeah, if you know what's been happening, you'll get more out of it, but you could just read this issue, experience it, and move on. So fantastic issue. Superman number 5. This one is again, like, this series has been killing it so far. And Silver Banshee, the Jimmy Olsen Silver Banshee love story that I did not know, I did not expect, I did not know I was in need of, but was fun.
Jimmy Olsen F's, baby. That's what I took away from this.
They capture just, this book is just so fun. It plays with those kind of classic concepts, but just does so in a modern way. It's gorgeous. Also, we finally get they've been teasing Moonlight for forever. The Maryland, they've been teasing that whole thing, and you get another one here. I'm hoping that actually comes to fruition soon. And then this whole long play with Lex has been really well executed. And then towards the end, you get that kind of big turn, and you're starting to see like the grander plan that they've been putting against Superman play out and why. And so it's just, this book can really do no wrong for me. And then Titans number 2, following up. I mean, this is really the new Justice League. So they're the preeminent DC team. And again, like, Taylor does so many things with the cast and working them together, and this murder mystery, just fantastic. So lots of good DC stuff. And then honestly, just lots of good comics across the board this week. Just in general, it was actually hard to narrow it down. So that's comics.
All right, and that'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. As we said at the start of the show, if you came in late, there's another episode out this week. We do a bonus round episode where we talk about DC's chances of building a successful new universe, given what's happened with the last few movies. So be sure to download that one as well, and fill your weekend with listening to both of these excellent Comic Book Nation episodes. You can subscribe to Comic Book Nation on your favorite podcast platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review if you like the show. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, YouTube.com/comicbook, all one word, -nation, because we will be dropping videos of awesome interviews, bonus round discussions, trailers, clips, all kinds of stuff that we've kind of populated that page with, and you guys have been helping us blow that thing up, and we continue to look forward to your support blowing it up. Otherwise, you can follow us individually on Twitter. I am at Kofi Outlaw.
I am Connor KCCB.
And I am at Matt Aguilar CB.
And we hope to see you next week, because I believe next week will be Indiana Jones is back, and so is The Witcher. So Matt is very excited. The Witcher is his jam, so he's got a lot, I know, in the tank. He's got a lot of Witcher stuff in the tank over there, this guy's sitting on. So we're going to be talking about The Witcher Season 3, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and all kinds of other stuff that's going to be happening, and probably something in a bonus episode too, once we figure out like what's going on. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. This is Comic Book Nation. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Later.